3AW Footy Preview for 2026. We can't wait. Now, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, it's a huge welcome as we get set for a big season. Two of the superstars of the game, Matthew Lloyd and Caroline Wilson, to talk about some of the issues on and off the field ahead of the year. Lloydy and Caro, welcome.
Hello.
Lloydy, obviously no one's had a bigger off-season than Lachie Neale. Not that in the fashion that he would have liked. From a footy point of view, how do you think it's going to affect him and the Brisbane Lions?
It sounds like it's going to be the last year he plays for the Brisbane Lions.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, to get back and be closer to his family in Western Australia. So he's a professional. So players are very good at moving on. So in terms of, there's been a massive storm around him, but players are very good at being able to. It's their careers too, and it's the club team's career. But the bigger problem for me is that the hangover period for some, that some can get comfortable and teams pick you apart and look at what you do, and everyone studies the best. So to me, that's a bigger problem for Brisbane than Lachie Neale. Lachie Neale, he's going to do his thing. I'm sure he's going to get 25 to 30 touches a week, but they don't rely on Lachie Neale like they used to. So to me, I don't know if you feel, I don't think it's going to be a huge distraction. Taking the captaincy off him was the right move because you lose respect. There'll be partners within the team.
Yeah, and that's probably
teammates.
The part, Caro, that we don't really know what that impact could be, potentially, I suppose, culturally.
You talk to leaders at the club and they swear they haven't seen it, and that the pre-season has gone smoothly and there has been no sign of any dissension. They even say that they haven't seen any sign of issues between the families and the partners involved. I find that really hard to believe. I think when something like this happens, it does put your culture under scrutiny. I'm not saying it's justified to be writing stories about young players and their relationship breakups, which has been done in the Herald Sun, about Will Ashcroft and Jack Payne, I think.
But what it does point to, it is a new media landscape, isn't it? And that's players have to deal with stuff that they never had to before.
Particularly when their partner, ex-partner and new partner, although no longer new partner, I gather, in Lachie Neale's situation, are going on social media themselves. And, when we're starting to read about revenge bikinis, I mean, it's just insane. Look, I'm not comparing it to what happened at Richmond after it turned out that Damien Hardwick had been having an affair and had left his wife, who was part of the fabric of the Richmond Footy Club. And I think Jules Neale was probably, she must have been a pretty integral figure among the wives and girlfriends at that footy club, given Lachie's influence on the team. But at the time, I wrote that he was in danger, Damien, of tarnishing his legacy, and it was going to affect the club. He was furious, has still banned me years later, sooked it up something shocking. But I hate to say it, but it was true. There were players, it's now emerged, at Richmond who did struggle because they didn't like what Damien had done. Now, he was a coach, so I know it's different.
Yeah, it is.
And when you're preaching values as a coach, it's very different than as a player. But I just wonder, people are now saying, and I'm not saying this is right, it probably isn't, well, was there more to that overseas trip? Are there the good guys and the bad guys at that footy club? It puts you under a scrutiny you don't need, you don't want. The long-serving CEO and much respected Greg Swan is gone. Sam Graham is respected too, but he doesn't have the gravitas of a Greg Swan. Danny Daly, they hadn't committed to the club till the end of October, the footy boss, early November. Another distraction. So I'm very bullish about their on-field team and their leader, who's one of the most impressive in the game.
Just on that, Caro, but what about the distraction of what Chris Fagan dealt with the racism and what he got through there? So I think they got such a special...
I think that was different because nobody at Brisbane believed for a moment Chris Fagan had done what he'd been accused of.
Yeah, but it's more how he dealt to get through that and be a two-time premiership coach.
Isn't it, really?
You talk to people around Chris Fagan and it took every ounce of support and leadership and off-field things we will never know about to get Chris to front up to work some days. Yeah. So, just some 2 flags later, 3 grand finals later.
And it'll just be if they lose game. It's more what happens early. If Lachie Neale would want them to be winning games early, otherwise we are going to be talking a lot about.
Well, it'll be brought up at some stage.
And he's not the player he was, Lachie Neale, clearly, but he did. Well, he's the last ever sub, isn't he? And what a last ever sub he proved to be. Yeah. An extraordinary performance, but it can't be easy when your 2 children are living on the other side of the country. And you're going, so that will be a problem as well.
One of the great surprises, I think, early in the off-season was Nathan Buckley's return to coaching as an assistant at Geelong. He's still going to do some work on Fox, but...
which is an issue, I reckon.
Well, I guess, we'll see.
Don't like it.
We'll see about that, depending on how much he does, I suppose. And
we'll be keeping a close eye on it, as you can imagine.
I know you will, Caro. Yeah, I know you are the queen of conflict of interest over the years.
But the decision to go and work under one of the best in the business...
It's good for him and it's good for the club, isn't it?
It's good for Tasmania.
Yeah.
It's good for Geelong.
Yeah.
I imagine very good for Chris Scott and very good for Nathan Buckley.
Has he come back yet, Chris? Or no? Oh, yeah, we saw him in the State of Origin, didn't we?
So when will Nathan be the coach, do you think, of Tasmania?
Yep, I do. I think it's going to take a lot to shift that. Something will change or someone will emerge who we hadn't seen. I still think he's front of mind. And I think he took the Geelong job after he had consulted with people like Brendan Gale and the Tasmanian board. And I think, what about them getting a 7-year major sponsorship with Blundstone?
Yeah.
Multi-million-dollar sponsorship.
It's a great start, isn't it?
When they're not even playing a game.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great story. Anyway, I'm a bit of a cheerleader for Tasmania, but I thought that was impressive. I think he's the right choice still so far.
Oh, well, he wants it. He's a big name. He'd have the respect of the young players coming through. Still super fit, super strong. I think that plays a big factor with all the 17-year-olds that are going to be entering his footy club, and then it'll just be whether he can land a few big fish along the way. And I think if Nathan Buckley is the coach, it gives you more of a chance to attract a player of a Nick Dacos quality.
Yeah. All right, are you a believer in the Saints, what they did, but like what impact they can have, those new players, more particularly?
I'm looking forward to this answer.
Yeah.
I don't know how good they are though, Hutto. So I don't mind what they've done because St Kilda have been just stuck in the middle for so long. So they've thought to themselves, and they've drafted some good kids. So I think that
so that helps, and they've kept that
helped. So they've done that. They've drafted the kids, and then they thought, we've got all this cash, kept the best player, Wanganeen Miller, and they've gone all in. But De Koning, at times I've thought, how special is this guy going to be? But he hasn't played a lot of great games of football, so they've paid a lot, but they had to get him to leave. And then obviously the Gold Coast midfielder, Flanders.
Yep, Flanders.
Ned Flanders.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how good he is. So that's what I'm really interested. Jack Silvani, I'm not sure how good.
Liam Ryan. His best is good, but has he passed it?
So they're there and they're going to add a lot of depth. So De Koning's
they've recruited like they think they can make finals.
Yeah. And then, it'd be massive. If they don't make the top 10, like the pressure is going to be on them more than anyone, just about. So they'll be, as I said, I don't see them as a top, these players to me don't get them top 6. I think their depth is not there. They're not good enough.
Have you got the inside word on Max King?
Well, just a soft tissue this time around, but again, doing a soft tissue now sets you back massively.
It's a big year for him.
As a key position player, I know personally, like guys like James Hird and even Dean Rioli didn't play for footy, but they could miss games and they'd come in, their touch was perfect. As a key forward, I think you need continuity, and he just does not have any. So your timing's out, you get smashed off the ball, so it makes it another tough year for him, even if he can get himself out on the park. Yeah,
well, hopefully he can at least do that.
Yeah.
What about, quickly, Zach Merrett? What impact will that have at Essendon, do you think?
Well, they say he's training the house down. He's still the best trainer there is. I think many feel it was a good thing that he's not the captain, and that the McGrath takes over. I'm dumbfounded a little bit, but this contract extension story because
he wanted an extension.
Yeah, that he wants an extension. So whether he feels that. It's going to be too late for him now to find another club at 30 years of age, so he may as well take the longer-term deal with Essendon now before it gets too old.
It's a clever way to change the narrative, at the very least. But
so he'll be a good
I thought
player
that was one of the more extraordinarily audacious requests. After the way he tried to blow, he pretty much blew up the club in the training
which
period.
He knew he had to do to try and get out. So he knew what he was doing.
Were there better ways of doing it, though?
I think he felt with his management, Tom Petroro, and that he's maybe toyed with it, but they haven't ever wanted to do it for him. So he thought.
But now he's got rid of his management.
Yeah, he has, because
he didn't think they couldn't do the deal.
No. So
no one came well out of that.
No.
Hawthorn didn't come out well either. If you're going to do that to a club, you've got to do the deal, don't you?
Yeah, and they thought it was enough. The Bombers felt that they were being walked all over, and the deal didn't come till late, and it wasn't still good enough. But
Were
anyway,
you glad that Essendon stood up in the end? Or
I'm very torn because I saw Clayton Oliver and Petrarca and Brad Green stand up at a best and fairest and say, this will be our centre square. And it was a disaster, and a year later, they're gone.
And you missed the chance to
get... you missed the chance. So I wonder whether, for a player who doesn't want to be there, you say, see you later, take the kids, but they'll say they were going to be picks in the 20s. Yeah. Then they weren't going to be the quality. But so they took a stand, but I wonder still whether it would have been... We'll look back and say they should have let him go.
And just finally, you touched on Melbourne. Stephen May, has he played his last game, do you think, Caro?
not looking good at Melbourne, is it? I gather that the chairman, Stephen Smith, made it quite clear a few weeks ago that Melbourne pretty disappointed. They didn't manage to get that trade done and get him out of the club late last year.
Yeah, and there was other clubs that desperately needed a defender and they didn't want to.
It didn't bode well for Stephen May, did it? No, look, I can't see him going back now. This latest off-field story about Stephen May makes me think Melbourne have got rid of a lot of problem children, and it would be crazy to keep Stephen May. I don't think he's going back.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tough year on the field, I would suspect, for Stephen King in his first year. All right, so much to talk about. It builds the anticipation, doesn't it, for the start of the season. You'll hear all the best action, of course, on 3AW. Big thanks to Lloydy and Caro. Don't forget to like and subscribe our brand new 3AW Football YouTube channel.